So that's carried. Okay, item 14, CCO half-year reports. We are reasonably on time. Okay, so we've got 5 CCO half-year reports. Central Plains Water Trust, which we don't really have a stake in. Christchurch Agency for Energy Trust, which I believe should be close to finishing. Civic Building, which is this one. Rickett and Bush Trust and Rod Donald's. Yes. So we have various councillors associated with various of these. So
if they could just be duly noted.
So that's duly noted. But I may ask some of you actually just if there's any particular updates to this. So what I will do, Linda Len, hello. Is there anything you want to draw our attention to?
No, they're all fairly straightforward. I know that for Central Plains Water Trust there's quite a bit of information on the environmental work they've been doing. That's not something I can talk to, but if there's demand for the trustees to come in and have a session with councillors, we can accommodate that. The Christchurch Agency for Energy Trust is in its final throes. It's signalling that it should be wound up by June. We think probably December.
The chair is shaking her head.
Oh, well, the committee will make a decision at the next meeting this month. Due to logistics on the uptake of the grants, it's probably looking into going into next year. We don't think it's going to be able to achieve a wind up by June this year. No. So it'll be June the following year, but hopefully everything will be virtually wound up by the end of this calendar year and officially.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that.
So that's,
yeah. Carry on. Civic Building.
Rickett and Bush Trust has had a great turnaround in its ability to raise revenue through the local cafe called Local. They've had a really big uptick in their custom, which has benefited the trust. In fact, Rickett and Bush Trust has probably got, there's quite a bit of information I've included because they've really been driving hard to get third-party revenue. And that's probably about all. Oh, actually, I should mention while I'm here, the Rod Donald Banks Peninsula Trust is signalling that it will have allocated most of its money by 2020. It has generated a strategic plan that it's seeking to engage with councillors on. I'm not sure whether there's been anything formalised on that yet.
I think they were going to come in and do a presentation, so that's being arranged, I think, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's take it one by one. So we'll start with Central Plains Water Trust. Are there any questions on that, Vicky?
Yep. So as I understand it, we stayed on this outfit, the settlement group, because of the environmental monitoring. But when I read the environmental report, there are a lot of lapses. So it doesn't meet the environmental standards that it should, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of punishment or penalty, or nothing seems to happen as a result of that. So I'm intrigued, when they don't meet the environmental standard, what actually happens? What's the penalty for getting it wrong, or for not doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Phil, are you on this?
Make a suggestion that
yes.
I thought we heard before that there was a possibility perhaps that people from the trust might also come and talk with us. I wonder if that might be the best way forward to answer those very important questions that Councillor Buck is raising.
Yeah. I think that would be helpful because I'm quite interested to see how they interact with the water management groups as well. So why don't we set that up? Invite them in to do a workshop, and then we can get these questions answered.
Yeah. As long as they're answering questions, that would be great.
Yep. Okay, cool. Anything else on Central Plains Water? Okay, so the Christchurch Energy Agency. So they still have funding, which hasn't been allocated. So Pauline, do you want to give us an update?
Yeah, there's not a lot that hasn't been allocated. It could be about, I think, around 160 but that's potentially allocated. We've got quite a good uptake on the electric charging units that we're putting in. So it will all be allocated, it will all go. It's just that it won't be, it's too difficult to have it all taken up by June this year.
Okay. So once those final grants are made, the trust will be wound up.
That's right. And once they're allocated and taken up, because we don't hand them out until they've actually completed the project, or they've actually got that part of the project all lined up. So we can't release the funds until certain milestones are achieved in the application.
And is there any monitoring of the grants and the outcomes?
Oh, yeah.
The latest set of grants for the LED downlight bulbs has been spectacular. Through the Canterbury Action Network, they have basically been putting LED light bulbs into a number of properties, and the uptake, and I think it's been very good on that.
So they were given, I think, 50,000 for the project in, I think, December, and to date they've spent probably around 50% of that, I'd say. Last update I had, it's probably more now, but they've really hit the ground running with those, which are energy saving, plus they're going to save people a lot of money on their power bills in lower income areas. So that's been a really good project.
Yes,
so they're in line to pick up anything that's left over if they want to extend that successful project. However, as I said, the electric charging units are going really well around town, and there's another couple of things in the wings as well.
Good stuff. Like to hear that. Okay, civic building. That's our building here.
I had a question on the CAF.
On the who?
On the CAF.
Oh, sorry.
So I've been trying to get it for council projects. So can we use it for council projects or not?
No.
I think we've had
No.
this
So
question
could we wind it
before.
up and use the money to put onto our local council projects, or should we get like, or can we get
changing the
volunteer groups like the Opawa Library Group? If they put an application in, would they be eligible even though it's for a council building?
Through companies like Red Bus have received a significant grant towards their electric bus, the ADL buses. They've received a grant towards that, or are receiving a grant.
Right.
So the CCO in that relationship will get it. Other organisations with a relationship with council, like the Otahi Community Housing Trust, potentially could get it as well. It's the council operations that are precluded from getting a grant.
Sorry, it's the council.
Any council operations are precluded from not getting a grant. They don't get the ability to make the grant.
But
and you have to, the purposes of the trust are quite specific, the 4 items, and they basically rule out directly the ability.
And we've had this question before, and the fact is we've just heard the fund is basically allocated.
Can I just understand, if the trust got wound up with remaining funds, what happens to those funds?
It won't be.
Well, no, but
The trust has to
because you keep
expend all the
allocating
funds.
it. I understand that. They keep allocating it, and they don't want to wind up until they've allocated it all. But
But they can't wind up. till they've
priority
allocated.
projects already there waiting. It's just a question of when they're ready and where it goes to. So it's not a case of looking around for somewhere to put it. There's projects lined up, and
well, we can't afford to put sustainability to our own projects.
and the other
Okay, that's enough
Yeah.
of that. Any other questions? Right, okay. Civic building. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Rickerton Bush, any questions on that? Sounds like the cafe is going well. It's going well. Jimmy, you want to say anything about the bush?
Yeah, because why the moment, you can see that actually the cafe is pretty good, and also those Saturday the farms, the market, quite a few people there, and also this cafe also provide those catering to the people. That's very good and healthy. But at the moment, try to to upgrade those the toilets
Yep.
two out there. So we try to kind of accept to the trust the funding whether can seek in some other the source of funding to meet our current needs. Generally speaking, it's pretty
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, and finally, Donald Banks Peninsula. So they're going to come in and do a workshop for us. So we'll get... Andrew, do you want to say anything about them?
Yeah, I might just make a couple of comments on that, if I can. I mean, there is a conversation that the Rod Donald Banks Peninsula Trust want to have with Council around future activities and longevity. and that's scheduled, as I understand it, for a date in April. The Trust have prepared a strategic plan document and a booklet that goes along with it, and there's also a video that also explains the strategic plan. So all of that will come in April. I think looking at this document, it's largely a compliance requirement, so the document is what it is providing the information that's required to be provided for this purpose. It shows that there's significant progress against the 4 pillars on which the projects are based: access, biodiversity, knowledge and partnerships. But I think we need to look at this document as what it is and realise that there's a wider conversation that trustees want to have with council about what the trust might be able to achieve in the future. So that's slated for April.
Lovely, thank you very much. Any other questions on that? Okay, if there's no further questions on the report, we will note the contents of the report. Do I have a mover? Moved Phil, seconded Tim. Any debate? I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried. And now we have a resolution to exclude the public, noting that Leah will remain. We're expecting some Christchurch NZ people, V-Base, to be here for this afternoon. I'm happy to move that. Seconded Andrew, put the motion. All in favour say aye. 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 Against, that's